Good evening, my friends. My name is Pavel from from the Pavel Tutors Languages, and I've been tutoring the languages such as French, Italian, Spanish, Russian, and tonight, I'm focusing on the Italian grammar, which is passato prossimo and imperfetto. Passato prossimo is the present perfect tense, and imperfetto is more or less like a continuous past tense. So I would like to explain the differences. I would like to explain when this is used and how it is used and how it is created. Okay, so let's start with passato prossimo. I'm going to read it first in Italian, then I'll translate that into English for both, and then I have prepared a couple of sentences, actually more than that, and I'm going to practice those those two tenses in those sentences. Okay, so let me just move the camera properly. That little light which is in the corner here, that really bothers me, because when you want to arrange proper lighting using the ring light, it just burns the eyes and it's really painful sometimes. Okay, so passato prossimo under the letter A è un tempo verbale indicativo che serve ad esprimere un'azione accaduta nel passato ma che ha comunque a che fare con il presente. I would like to specify one thing, that these lectures are designed for people who already have some knowledge, basic knowledge in the Italian grammar. Okay, so what it is, this tempo verbale indicative, so it is a verbal voice, indicative voice, and it serves to express obviously an activity or action that happened in the past and still has I would say like a temporal or emotional effect in the future, in the present. Such as if I, for example, say that I have seen my friend, or I have done this work. Yeah, it's already done, but it is still effect to the present. So what it states here, questa vicinanza, or that closeness between present and the past, has only this temporary or emotive effect. Okay, next one, imperfetto. Imperfetto is the tense that describes the action in the past that had certain duration or was passing at the same time as other action, and it has ended in the past. It has no connection to the present. So this is imperfetto. It states è un tempo verbale indicativo che serve ad esprimere un'azione continuata nel passato oppure un'azione passata contemporanea ad un'altra azione. For example, when you called me, I was reading my book. Okay, or when I was eating, she was doing something else. So at the same time. So this is where we use imperfetto. Now, how do we form passato prossimo, or how do we form imperfetto? We know that in Italian language we have basically verbs. There are verbs that are ending in are, ere, nebo ire, such as parlare, or prendere, or dormire, or tenere, right? So if those verbs end on are, in order to create passato prossimo, we have to do two things. We have to first have auxiliary verb avere or essere plus participio passato, which is the past participle. Past participle is basically, everybody knows what is that. But we have to create those two verbs in those two positions, and then we can actually use it. So we know that avere is when I'm conjugating avere, io ho, tu hai, lui, lei ha, noi abbiamo, voi avete, loro hanno. Or essere, io sono, tu sei, lui, lei è, noi siamo, voi siete, loro sono. We know also that we are using essere mainly for the reflexive verbs and also for the verbs that display any movement or the change of the state. But avere is for all the rest. We have also irregular verbs, but I am not going to those irregular verbs yet. Okay? Participe passato, we have to take that verb which is ending are, for example, parlare. We have to remove are and we will add ato. Parlato, or for example, ere, such as tenere, we remove ere and we add uto. Tenuto. Ire, such as dormire, we remove ire, dormito. Okay? For example, for imperfetto, we have a different arrangement. When we have verbs which are ending on are, we have to remove are and give it ending avo, avi, ava, avamo, avete, avano. Nebo ere, remove ere, evo, evi, eva, evamo, evate, evano. Or ire, remove ire from the end of the verb, obviously, and replace it with ivo, ivi, iva, ivamo, ivate, ivano. For example, dormire, dormivo, dormivi, dormiva, dormivamo, dormivate, dormivano. Okay? Or parlare, parlavo, parlavi, parlava, parlevamo, parlevate, parlevano. Okay, now let's go to a couple of sentences. I took those sentences from Italian journal, which is Il Giornale, which is quite good, I would say, magazine that gives more or less the world news. And what happened that recently Pope met with some highly positioned Muslim representative, and they are just trying to figure out something together. So this is where those sentences were taken from. So the first one: tenere questa posizione sul tema della immigrazione clandestina, which means tenere, which is to hold, questa posizione, this position, sul tema, on the theme della immigrazione clandestina, which is the clandestine immigration. So if I want to put this into passato prossimo, this verb tenere, it ends ere, ere. I have to give it, for that participio passato, for that verb, I have to give it the ending uto. And I have to have the auxiliary avere, in that case, in the present indicative tense. So avere would be o. Takže, what I would do, I would say ho tenuto questa posizione sul tema della immigrazione clandestina. Or if I would like to place it into imperfetto, which means that I would describe the action that I was in the past for a certain amount of time holding this position, so I would say, I would take this verb tenere, tenere, remove ere, and put evo if it is me. So tenevo questa posizione sul tema della immigrazione clandestina. Or if it was us, we, would be noi, tenevamo questa posizione sul tema della immigrazione clandestina, which means that for that period of time in the past we were holding this position. Next one. Continuare, chiedere la reciprocità per quanto riguarda il culto cristiano nei paesi musulmani, which means continuare is to continue, chiedere is to ask, la reciprocità, reciprocity, per quanto riguarda, with regard to, il culto cristiano, Christian cult, nei paesi musulmani, in Muslim countries. So if I would like to say it in passato prossimo, continuare, I would remove are and add to that verb atto. And before that creates my participio passato, this form of this verb, but I still have to give it the present tense of avere or essere. So it is avere in that case. So I would say ho continuato chiedere la reciprocità per quanto riguarda il culto cristiano nei paesi musulmani. Or if I want to put it into imperfetto, I would say, because it is are, I would remove are from that and I would give it the ending avo. Continuavo chiedere la reciprocità per quanto riguarda il culto cristiano nei paesi musulmani. Next one. Affermare l'identità cristiana in concezioni indigeniste. Affermare is to affirm, identità, identity, cristiana, Christians, concezioni, concessions, indigeniste, indigenous. So, if I want to put into passato prossimo, such as, for example, she, so lei ha affermato, again, are, affermato l'identità cristiana in concezioni indigeniste. If I want to put it in perfetto, I would say, for example, me, io affermavo, again, are, remove are, put avo. Io affermavo l'identità cristiana in concezioni indigeniste. Or, orchestrare e preparare da lungo tempo da parte dei poteri internazionali per cambiare radicalmente identità cristiana. Orchestrare is to orchestrate, preparare to prepare, da lungo tempo, for a long time, da parte dei poteri internazionali, from the part of the international power, per cambiare, to change, radically, identity cristiana, Christian. Which means, so if I want to say that there would be translation would be to orchestrate and to prepare for a long time from the parts of the international powers to change radically the Christian identity. So if I want to put into passato prossimo, I would say io ho orchestrato e ho preparato da lungo tempo da parte dei poteri internazionali, etc. Or if I want to put in perfetto, I would say io orchestravo e preparavo da lungo tempo da parte dei poteri internazionali per cambiare radicalmente identità cristiana. Or ricercare uno strumento per una modifica profonda. That means to find the instrument to change or to modify profonda, strumento per una modifica profonda. That means for the deep change, okay, or a deep modification. So ricercare ends on are. If I want to put into passato prossimo, I would say io ho ricercato uno strumento per una modifica profonda. Or if I want to put into imperfetto, would be ricercavo, ricercare, remove are, put avo. Io ricercavo un strumento per una modifica profonda. Or if it was, let's say, vi, I would say noi ricercavamo. You see? Take are away, ricercavamo un strumento per una modifica profonda. And the last one, procedere verso una sorta di alleanza. Procedere is to proceed, verso, toward, una sorta, kind of, alleanza, alliance. So it means to proceed toward kind of sort of alliance, which means procedere. Procedere ends ere. Second one, so if I want to put into passato prossimo, I would say io ho proceduto verso una sorta di alleanza. Or if I want to describe activity in the past, and for a long time in the past I was proceeding toward that direction, so I would say again procedere, remove ere, I would say procedevo, or you procedevi, or she procedeva, procedevamo, procedevate, procedevano. So io procedevo verso una sorta di alleanza. So these were just a couple of examples of how to distinguish between imperfetto and passato prossimo. Okay, so I always assume that those people who are looking at this, that they already have some basic knowledge of those languages. So I still have about 3 minutes because YouTube doesn't allow more than 50 minutes for me. So again, imperfetto describes the imperfect action in the past. That means that it started in the past, continued for some time in the past, or also was at the same time running some with another past, such as I'm saying, when you called me, I was eating, or when you were reading, I was sleeping. Yeah. So that's imperfetto, and these are the endings for these verbs which are ending are, ere, or ire. Remember, we have to remove them and replace them by those. Or for passato prossimo, for the present perfect, we have to create participio passato, which is the past participle, and from that past participle we have to put it after the present tense of the indicative avere or essere, such as io ho, tu hai, lui lei ha, noi abbiamo, voi avete, loro hanno. Or essere, which is mainly for, essere is used like in French language for movement or the change of the state. So essere, io sono, tu sei, lui lei è, noi siamo, or siete, loro sono. Okay, so I do hope that this was clear enough. I know it was a little bit fast, but if you already have some knowledge in Italian, it would be easy to understand. And if you have any question, you can always leave a note and we can go into the details. Thank you again. I have still about 5-10 seconds. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening, and arrivederci. Buonanotte.